See, there is a lot of droughts happening, a lot of flood, storms. People are burning plastic on the streets.
Warming up the planet, higher emissions of carbon dioxide.
We are also kind of like becoming a bit parasitic to the planet in the name of development. Kids are actually going to get skin cancer, climate anxiety among young people, food shortages, huge crisis on economy. So you're going to lose job much before you die from the heat. It's time to stop it. Do you feel safe in this world? This is an unscripted video about climate change and its effect on mental health. It's true that the world is getting warmer and it's causing a lot of calamities around the world. I hope this video sheds light on why it happens and how we can avoid climate anxiety. Please feel free to watch till the end and subscribe. It means a lot to me. Do you feel safe in this world, climate-wise?
Yeah, for the most part, I do feel safe, but obviously, if I'm gonna look around too much on what's on the news, I will have a lot of things to worry about.
Yeah, I would say the same. I would say, like, looking at from Sweden, you wouldn't feel there is a climate crisis happening, or at least for an average person, it won't be the case. But also, you can see there is a lot of droughts happening, a lot of flood, storms, especially in Asian countries. I could see, like, for example, Pakistan, Bangladesh, a lot of places in India, where I'm coming from, there is floods every other year. So I think climate crisis is a real problem, and the people who faces it is having a hard time believing the world is safe.
Absolutely. The more close you are to it, the more you will believe it, so to say.
How do you think we get to this place?
We cause it ourselves, I guess. For me, I think we start from industrialization. Basically higher emissions of carbon dioxide and creating this greenhouse effect, warming up the planet at a very fast pace in a short time, pretty lot. At the same time, natural changes of the planet, its own heat systems and whatnot actually exist at the same time. I think it's hard to say exactly how much we as people are responsible for, but I mean, I would say quite a lot, enough to be ashamed about it, enough to be responsible for things getting worse. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I feel very similar to there might be cycles of patterns that our planet follows. For example, there has been ice ages before. There have been high temperatures before. So, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that we haven't contributed to this kind of change. I feel like the way we are, like thinking about capitalism, globalization, the way we spread as a species and become 7 billion people, we are also kind of like becoming a bit parasitic to the planet by destroying it in the best way possible in the name of development. So when you drill a hole and get all the oil, which is the bloodline of a planet, and then you kind of burn it for profit, I don't think you shouldn't expect anything better because the planet has its own systems to kind of protect itself, and the temperature is one way to do it. So I would say where we are right now has to be at least a lot of it is contributed by humans. And even now, the crazy part is that people haven't learned. Like when I was living in India long back, I remember people were burning plastic on the streets.
They still do it.
And not everywhere. Now, when I talk to my parents, I could say at least in Kerala, they have improved a lot. There is people collecting it. But at the same time, a lot of other places in India, more rural places where they have other set of problems to solve, they don't care about plastic because they care about making money to survive another day. Now, the next question would be what do you think are some psychological impacts on young people who kind of feels that they might be one of the last generations to live on this planet?
I think they feel a lot of responsibility, a lot of disappointment, and obviously anxiety, maybe to a high extent, but for sure they're feeling, now it's their burden to carry the last hope for the planet almost. I think it weighs a lot I mean, I think already for us it does. Although we think it's our children that will get the biggest thing to clean up. But yeah, absolutely a lot of anxiety. I can't even imagine how it feels to, from the small age when you're just a kid playing around, like 10 years old, already getting to know about climate change, already happening, already haven't gotten so far. It must be very difficult.
Yeah, and it also depends on where you're, for example, the viewer, where are you watching it from? You might be like, oh, I don't know any youngster who's kind of like stressed about climate change or like rising temperatures or floods. And it has to do a lot with how a society views climate change. For example, again, going back to India, because I am from India, the priority would be like how to study hard to get a job. And the kids are always put in front of textbooks. So they don't really understand about the world that is changing. They don't have a relative point where they can kind of like match to where the planet were. But to give an example, when I was growing up, we used to play a lot outside. We used to go out, we used to play cricket or football. Now I don't think it is possible. Kids are actually going to get skin cancer or serious diseases because sun has become, or the ultraviolet rays are becoming much more than before.
In some areas, they're very high in the world. Yes, and it can become very dangerous.
And it does have to contribute with location, but it also has to contribute with greenhouse effect and the gases in the atmosphere that...
It's the ozone layer that is being affected differently in different locations.
Yes, exactly. But to give an overall overview about this kind of psychological impacts on young people, there has been various studies which says that there is a rise of something they call climate anxiety among young people. If you look at Sweden, for example, some people, the group of people who cares a lot about climate and about recycling waste, I think there is young people rising against and talking to people in charge to actually think about it. So it's a big conversation regarding climate change and the future they might miss.
Yeah, like Greta Thunberg, world-known 15-year-old autistic girl talking with U.S. president, going to UN meetings about climate. She's a big girl from Sweden, very famous now. And I think maybe partly she contributed to even more anxiety for younger generations, but she's also representing the anxiety that's already here and maybe at least Scandinavia. But I think a lot of Western countries, when people get some distance and people who can sort, people who can buy flight tickets or not, who have this choice to be climate aware by choices, they get anxiety because then they, think exactly, take responsibility with every action.
And I think it's very important, like wherever you are, I'm telling you like very frankly, if you don't care about the planet, if you don't care about what is happening around, one way or the other, it's going to affect you. For example, the climate would change and weather patterns might change. There would be food shortages where you are. Or there might be, for example, like a huge crisis on economy. So you're going to lose job much before you die from the heat. So people should start caring about climate and should take some responsibility when it comes to their life. Don't be that kind of capitalistic, dead in the head young person who always want to order something in Amazon. Think about the carbon footprint you make. Think about the kind of change you are contributing to in the world. So always be aware of it. Now, coming back to the next question, what is the role of personal responsibility when it comes to climate change?
It's a big role, but on a larger scale. We're all personally responsible, but it's billions of us who are personally responsible, right?
Exactly.
So the responsibility is being very dispersed. So you don't feel responsible because we have so many to share it with. So it shrinks per person, and you don't feel it. And if you feel it too much, because then there's only so much you can do as one person at the end of the day as well. But it's important that you do what you can. Like some people, they don't fly anymore. They choose not to. I have a colleague like that. Others go to protests in the airports and then don't let the planes get off. For example, many things. I mean, you can start with an electric car instead of a non-electric one if you afford it.
Or I would say the easiest way, I mean, electric car might be not the best thing for someone who's having a very different kind of salary. But the easiest thing to do is to be always aware about your consumeristic behavior, right? You are, a lot of people, a lot of young people kind of align their value towards things that they own. And, like, it might work for you, but it doesn't work for the world at least. So being a bit of crazy consumer, you consume everything as you go, like fast fashion or like absolute junk of a food doesn't just destroy your body, but also is bad for the world.
So much plastic, all kinds of chips and candy and chocolates, all these
wrappers around.
Packaging everywhere. Yeah. And beware about toothpaste. You can have plastic or not as well.
So, and wherever you are in India, you could see like there are huge slums or there is like waste accumulated in certain spots in your city or in your town. And you might feel like, oh, this is the normal, right? I have always grown up seeing this. But that's not true. If you come to a society that actually considers this as a problem, you can see how well it is managed. And at the same time, the people, the population who lives there also really cares about it. Every single thing we consume in a household is differentiated based on its nature. And yeah, for example, plastic in a dust in a box, whereas metal in a different box, food in a different box. So things are recycled efficiently, and that, I think, as a human, as a person who is in this world, you should really consider how to bring this kind of characteristics to your life.
Yeah, every country, every location has a potential to improve. You might be starting awareness in the area, contribute locally. It might make a huge difference. No difference, and 5 people is a huge difference.
Yes. Now to the final question. How would you say you can overcome climate anxiety? If someone who's watching it is stressed about the world's end, do you have any solutions for that?
I mean, yeah, you do. Maybe you look at the news like this. But honestly, really difficult. You can do best what you can, but it can also become like an OCD where you literally can't allow yourself to, even in exceptional times, buy some food because it's already like pre-packed in a plastic box or whatever. Yeah, it can be almost disabling. So I don't know. I think it's really important to help your children if you have, learn about climate change and how they can be helpful with it, but not get them a bit, like as a parent, important to teach, but in a balanced way, because yeah, you need to learn to limit early on. I don't know, what do you think?
I have a solution. So I feel like, see, when you are part of something you believe is right, there is a certain kind of courage that you get from doing that. For example, if you really believe that, okay, our kind of behavior is causing this kind of change and it's time to stop it. And if you really believe and if you kind of align your actions towards it, you end up having this kind of courage, believing that you're doing the right thing. Rest of the world, what happens, sometimes it's not in your control. There might be like, for example, calamities next to you. And you might feel like, oh, this is out of my control. It is true. But by doing what is right, that is the way I would say you kind of tackle climate anxiety. Always stand on your feet, strong, and then you do the right thing. And by doing it, in my opinion, you kind of build resilience in you. So I would say that is the way to go when it comes to climate or generally with anything in life.
In general, I agree, but when it comes to climate, you can literally get into such a detailed course that you can just get worse mentally by focusing more on the right thing, because there's always more right thing to do.
Yeah. And maybe that you have to find the balance.
You're allowed for balance. You don't have to take the world's responsibility on your own shoulders.
Yeah, if you don't want to. Or you could take. Up to you. But find the balance. This is the end of the conversation. I hope you guys had a great time listening to it. I'll see you next time. We see you next time. Bye-bye.